macroeconomics, the whole economy, the United States economy. You're talking about a huge economy at one time. You could have talked about the Florida economy, the European economy. Let's think in terms of the U.S. economy. What makes our economy run? What makes it do good or do bad? What's the key ingredient to you and me being able to find a job, earn money, and buy toys?
Well, I was just going to say consumerism, but
That's it, except I want you to use a different word.
sure.
But
Capital.
Starts with an S. Makes the world go round. It's a verb.
selling.
Well, it's a noun too.
Salaries.
Spending.
Oh, okay.
Spending is the key. If people are not spending money, businesses have no sales. If businesses have no sales, they lay off employees. So now you have even more people not spending money. And the process repeats itself, and you see rising unemployment and businesses shutting down, going out of business. When you have too little spending in the economy, you move into high unemployment, low sales, and what we call a recession. We have been playing games with, we have gone through the Great Recession in the United States, started in December '07. And technically we're out of it, but not really. Because spending is still very low, unemployment is still up at 8.5%. It's still a pretty sick and anemic economy. We want to spend some time this term talking about what's going on, what caused it, and we want to look at the two alternative views on what we need to do about it. And we'll see that this floats over into politics. You'll see that the Republicans have one economic view of the way you fix the economy, the Democrats have another. Okay? Spending. When we talk spending, though, we're not just talking consumers. We're talking about consumers, and we call that consumption spending. We're also talking about businesses and their spending of money. We call that investment spending. Businesses are buying new computers, new warehouses, hiring employees, buying inventory. All that spending is creating jobs. We're also talking about business spending by governments.
Government spending.
And we call that government spending. Yeah. But remember, we're talking not just the federal government, we're talking state and local also. And then there's one other element to this spending flow that comes from our foreign sector, from our selling of products and services overseas. And we call that net exports.
That doesn't include like treasury bonds, does it?
No. This is just final goods and services. This doesn't count used cars or anything that's used, just new stuff. And so when we talk spending, we're talking C plus I plus G plus X sub N. That's the total spending. Another word for that is gross domestic product. Another term for that we're going to use is aggregate demand. And so if there's not enough aggregate demand for businesses to produce enough stuff to create enough jobs, then we don't have enough jobs for everybody. We have a recession. We have unemployment. Spending is kind of, at least in the short run, that's kind of the key to how this economy is going to be healthy or not healthy. Why is spending so low today?
Employment.
Well, we lost jobs, but why did we lose jobs?
Because all our businesses went overseas.
Okay, one argument. We lost a lot of jobs because businesses moved overseas where labor was cheaper and environmental regulations were non-existent, etc. We lost some jobs there.
Well, I know in Florida, a lot of our economy is based, I know our government spending has been cut because we're over budget, and
Right.
and so a lot of the government spending, a lot of government people lost jobs.
Yep.
That was a big cut on the economy, and a lot of our income in Florida is based on real estate
Tourism.
and tourism, and that's been hit in both of those areas.
Say construction.
Oh, construction.
And
Definitely.
so our budget's been hit for a few years in government, which has really impacted the economy and the employment and the people that have been adversely affected with jobs haven't been able to find jobs in other areas.
And remember, it's sort of a triggering event in a sense, starts it, and as some businesses see sales go down, they start laying off, and so spending goes further, and other businesses start laying off, and it repeats itself in a downward spiral.
So can I ask a question?
Sure.
Why then, for example, do you have record sales with, like, we talk about iPad, Apple, iPhone,
There is no question that there are some segments, some products, some services in the economy that haven't seen a recession.
But they're not necessary. They're not like, it's not food or
Nope.
shelter or.
That's
Nope.
because people spend their money on what they want to spend their money on.
Yeah, you're into psychology and marketing now. Why is it that a person who can barely afford to buy food
Well, you
Well,
can't buy the iPad with food stamps.
will go out and camp overnight in front of
Yeah,
Best Buy to buy a
homeless
damn
people.
$600 iPad?
Pretty
Well,
much
or
all
why
those
people
now have cell
smoke,
phones.
buy cigarettes instead of, I used to smoke, and
Okay.
now it's $6 a pack.
Yeah.
I went to New York, it was 12.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to suggest to you that there were a couple of triggering events. One was the loss of job overseas, gradually and getting worse. And not just the loss of jobs, but loss of good pay and manufacturing jobs. But something else happened, and that was that real estate bubble where so many people invested in housing. And we call this, we're going to refer to something called a Minsky moment. Minsky, M-I-N-S-K-Y. A Minsky moment. And this happens repeatedly throughout history. It's when people find something that they think, if I buy this, the price will go up and I can sell it and make more money. And we have a name for that. We call that the theory of the greater fool.
Oh, there'll be a greater fool than I.
There'll be a greater fool than I who will even pay more than this, so hell yeah, I'll buy it.
Now, the Minsky moment
The
is
Minsky moment is when the price of
Real
something
estate.
gets so high,
Okay.
all the other greater fools stop and say, wait a minute, I don't know if I can sell it for a profit. Maybe I better not buy it. And the guy who just bought it is standing there going, but you're supposed to. I think that price ain't going up anymore. I don't think I want to buy it. But, remember that $200,000 house you bought? It was only worth about $80,000. And finally, at $200,000, the market looked at it and said, that's ridiculous. We're not buying that. And now, lucky you are saddled with what we calculated to be probably about a $2,600 a month mortgage payment that you can't afford. But you thought if you could just hold that house for 6 months, it would go up to $240,000. You'd make $40,000 in 6 months and you'd be a genius. Well, guess what, genius? We just had a Minsky moment. And at the Minsky moment, when people stop buying and the speculators are left there holding the bag, what happens to that housing price? They start selling for anything they can. And that's what's happening. And in real estate in particular, those prices have fallen and fallen and fallen and fallen and fallen. And what does that do to spending? Okay. You're already spending every time you got to make the damn mortgage payment. Then you lose the house, so you got no credit left. And by the way, when housing collapses, it drags a lot of stuff down with it. Look at all the contractors and all the stuff they buy. And so they start laying people off. And it's, again, that multiplicative effect of spiraling down. And I would suggest to you that that's a lot, if not the dominant cause, of what's happened to us today. We over-speculated in real estate. Why? Because our financial system encouraged it. Because people were encouraged to take out mortgages they couldn't afford.
Well, I want to ask you this then. You had mentioned like the manufacturing jobs going overseas, several reasons. We talked about corporate tax rate,
Okay.
Labor unions, cost of labor, things like that, why they left. The construction industry, a lot of that industry was, the employees in that industry were, shall we say, non-American.
Okay?
Maybe. But did their spending in this country have that big of a contribution to the decline of the construction industry, or was it the purchase of materials that had to do?
No, I would tell you that the bulk of the labor in the construction industry was American,
Yeah.
not foreign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they took a hit. They're still dying. Now, we are just beginning to see data that indicate we may have hit bottom and maybe slightly turning around. Unemployment's come down from 9.1 down to 8.5%. That's certainly in the right direction, just not nearly enough of it. So we want to talk about, and I'll ask you over the next couple of weeks before you come back, let's see what you discovered. You know, what's going on in the economy today? How's it looking? And remember, for our purposes right now, the real key is spending. We got too little spending. We also have another problem associated with